right, welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and officially call this meeting to order. First agenda item, anybody have a chance to read the meeting minutes from the last meeting? It's been a couple of months ago. Any discussion, motion?
I read them. And make a motion, we approve them.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Approved. All right, moving on to agenda item 2.1. ZV 24-3, 327 Butler Avenue, St. Simons Island variance. Consider request to the variance to Glynn County zoning ordinance sections 507.1 and 701.5 related to setback requirements. Property is zoned one-family residential, R6, and is located at 327 Butler Avenue, St. Simons Island, parcel 04-04889. Coy McGraw Law LLC, agent for applicant for the Butler Cottage LLC. Your comments from staff, please.
Okay, here we go. Now it's on. Thank you. All right, so this is the property. This is the King City area on St. Simons Island near the Pier Village. This is the existing one-story structure. So they do have a deck that they've constructed with an outdoor kitchen on it that does go to the property line for both the rear and the side setbacks. So it's in the back corner of their property. There's also an existing rear portion of the house that was added on in the late 1990s. We did pull the building permit file for that addition. Unfortunately, we were not able to verify whether the county had knowledge that the addition was going to the property line at that time. There was a building permit that was approved for square footage that matches this, but there was no site plan that was part of the file that we can locate in our records, and so we are unable to verify whether the county knew that the building was going to be at the property line or not. So that entire file, I know the applicant did submit and is part of your packet. So so that is part of this variance request as well. So they can clean that up and have a variance approved, if it is approved, for that 1990s addition, as well as this more newly constructed deck. So here is a survey of the property, and I do have the next slide a little zoomed in. So the bottom of the screen, this is the front of the property. So Butler is along the bottom of the screen here. And so where this arrow on the right-hand side is pointing, that is the deck that has been constructed. The outdoor kitchen is, sorry, this mic is not holding the power. Okay. So the deck kind of wraps around this back corner of the property, and outdoor kitchen is back here. Then the existing addition that was added in the 1990s is this back portion here. Just to refresh your memory, the variance that had been requested last year was on this left-hand side of your screen, this property. They had an existing deck, or they had a deck that they did end up reducing in size that does now comply. I do have some photos of that. So this is their requested deck, and you can see outdoor kitchen out here. So this is a recent photo of what's out on the site. This is the front of the property. This right-hand picture is looking back towards that deck that is above grade. Yeah, just to let you know that the reason why the difference between decks that are allowed to be to your property line and decks that need to meet setbacks, if it's above grade. So this is a wooden deck that's above grade, and that's why the setbacks need to apply. If this was an at-grade patio, they could go all the way to the property line, and there would be no reason to need a variance. And then the left-hand picture is the left side of the house, and this was part of the variance request from last year that was denied. This is a recent photo on the left-hand side. As you can see, in the variance request last year, the deck did go further towards the property line. They have reduced it in size. It does meet the setback now. So I just wanted to let you know that they are in compliance for what was denied last year. We did bring it into compliance. And then the right-hand side photo is just a closer view of this existing deck that's part of your variance request today. We did receive quite a bit of public comment on this project. We did receive letters in favor that were emailed to the Board of Appeals members. And those are in your packet. There were 2 new ones that came in since the packet went out. Those were sent to the Board of Appeals members by the applicant. So the left-hand side, these were the letters we received in favor of the project or the variance request. And on the right, thank you. And on the right-hand side, these are the letters we received that are in opposition to the variance request. The letter package from Mr. Isaac did include a letter that was signed by 4 individuals, including the Isaacs. And these are your possible motions. And the applicants, so were we able to have was the applicant able to join, or the owner able to join, please? Okay. So the applicant's attorney is here representing them, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Still waiting to be let in.
All right, we'll work on that.
You say you want me to, can we ask questions?
Any questions
Yeah,
for
you can
staff?
ask me questions, absolutely. Yeah, we're having the owner join in, but the owner's attorney is here in person, so if you have any questions of them.
Was the deck on the right side there when we did that last denial?
Yes. Let's see if I
I
can.
don't understand how it was included in the other one.
Yeah, the photo on the left-hand side of the screen was part of the variance request
Right.
last year. That they did pull it back from the side property line. I don't know if you kind of see there's a little bit of a gap between the deck and the fence. So that is what they have reduced in size to meet the code.
But it seemed like they had a fireplace that was over here on the right side.
That is, yeah, that's right. There was a fireplace that was part of it. That is not
been removed.
shown any longer. They have removed that, is my understanding.
I just don't understand how that's the same deck that was there last time, isn't it, when the fireplace was there?
The deck on the left-hand side of the screen,
I'm
that
talking about
has
the
been
right-hand side.
reduced. The one on the right, I'm not sure if that was there, if that's been constructed since. It may have been there, but it was not part of the variance request. I think that's what was It was not actually something they had applied for the variance for, and so that's officially part of their variance request this time.
Okay.
So, I have a question, correct me if I'm wrong. So the way the ordinance reads, when you have a structure that is encroaching, we had one not too long ago where there was a garage that was encroaching and the owner wanted to tear it down and completely rebuild it. The ordinance reads that you can maintain it, replace rotted wood, maintain, paint, whatever, as it sits, and it's fine. The issue is when you begin to make additions to it or changes, or completely rebuild, that's when you have to come before us to get the variance. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So in this particular case, this house has two major encroachments. It's encroaching 7 feet on the rear and 16 feet on the front. There's only one structure on that property. So I would interpret that structure cannot be added to or amended. It can only be maintained until those encroachments are either removed or variances are issued for those two encroachments for anything else is done. Am I correct in that?
Right, so, yeah, that's correct. So the existing house, was built in 1913 according to our records. So it was built prior to our zoning ordinances, which were enacted in the 1960s. So that is correct that they can maintain it, but any additions to it or any changes, there's either administrative variance or the full variance process depending on the scale of what they're doing.
Correct.
And in this case, this was a full variance that they needed.
I wanted to make sure I was interpreting that correct, because I have
Yes, you're correct.
a situation, a project that I'm currently doing. The corner of the house was literally in the neighbor's yard. So I was limited by the 50% rule and the encroachment, so I just picked the whole house up and moved it to delete everything, so now I'm free to do, and that was kind of where I was going with that.
Right, yes, sir.
And then I have my packet from last year's, and looking at the deck on the right side, to that same point about what can and can't be done, the deck that was there previously is on grade, which is clearly visible in the pictures from the original packet, and then currently is shown elevated. In the original picture, you can see in the back corner it is elevated, and it steps down the front is on grade, but in the new pictures, everything is clearly elevated, which brought into question all of this.
That is correct, yeah. If it had been maintained as an at-grade patio, this would not be before you today if that's all that was a request. But yeah, because they elevated the deck above grade, and there's also that more permanent outdoor kitchen, which is different than a grill that can be rolled away and moved to a different location.
Okay.
And the outdoor kitchen, if it was on grade, it wouldn't be a problem, would it?
If it was on grade,
It's not roofed.
it would need to be portable. Anything that's a permanent structure would need to meet setbacks. So if it's something that could be removed, but if it was actually a structural, piece that was in the setbacks, that would need to meet the setbacks, or that would be a variance request.
Okay.
You want to see if they can hear us?
Yes. Can the applicants hear us on Teams?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right. Any further questions for staff at this point?
I have one concerning the addition that was built, I guess, in the 90s. And you say that, our staff says that there was a permit issued for it, but didn't have a site plan. Now, my question is, and I guess this might go to building inspection, but when that addition was built and it was seen all the way to this property line, to the fence, why didn't building inspection catch it and say something then?
Yeah, and that's what we don't know. None of the staff that's here now was here during that time to, have any recollection of kind of how we handled things then. But yeah, we did find that we had issued a permit, and I know our building official is here if there's any specific questions. But I think we also had inspections. And he can speak more to that, but Yeah, just in our records for us to be able to research and, kind of backtrack, without anyone having that personal knowledge of what happened at the time. We couldn't find that site plan that actually verified, yes, they submitted a site plan that showed it went to the property line, or, anything. And we didn't see that there was any variance, that had been granted earlier either.
Looks like Mr. Carver's got some
Is there
kind of
any-
info with us.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Dave Carver, building official. We do not have any records of any inspections that Tammy has been able to find
Wow, okay.
Oh, currently or for the 99 return? For the,
from the 99.
okay, okay.
So permit was issued, but no inspections were done.
They may have been, but we don't have any record at the
Okay.
moment. So, and also backtracking to this current deck, we have a survey that was dated 12/27/21 with pictures of that deck already in place, except for it had a gap, I can't tell, maybe a foot or less between the end and the wall. And then in April, or I'm sorry, that was April of 21. Then we have a survey, is which y'all, I think, ruled on that they would be allowed, that was done by Jackson Survey, and 6 months later, they did not show that deck on there, and I can't explain why it's not on there, whether they did not do a site visit or they had records of the survey that they just updated dates. So just want to let you know.
Okay.
Oh, I got a question. Is there anything that indicates exactly what that permit was issued for in 99? I mean,
It was issued
I
for
see
a
some-
rear addition.
What?
A rear addition. And I don't think, I'm just speculating, I don't think the rear addition was approved to go all the way to the property line. It was
Yeah.
probably in the setbacks, and then at some point, there was a lean-to added to it, or at the same time. It's in the records with the appraiser's office, and then at some point, it probably got enclosed. But that's all speculation and
But
such,
there's no,
so we don't know.
the information you found did not include a plan that showed the addition, it showed the addition, but not going all the way to the setback.
We don't have a site plan showing that.
Do you have a plan that shows what the addition entails?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's back in Vernon's days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Vernon Lewis's days?
Yes, back. No, 99 would have been Ellis.
What,
Yep.
I have a question. Sir, about the deck on the right, I think I heard you say that in an initial survey, a deck was shown and it was a foot away from the wall. And then, did you say an appraisal or another survey?
The appraisal shown the deck a foot away from the wall 6 months prior to the survey date.
All right, so one of those times, there was no deck came up, no deck was shown, you said? In one, I thought I heard you say one of those documents you referred to, the deck was there on one of them, wasn't there on the other one?
The deck was shown on the appraisal, which was done 6 months before the survey, and the survey did not show it. And it should have been showed on the survey. It was not.
Okay, I just want to make it, so my question is it accurate to assume that that's not the same deck that was shown in one of those documents? If it's a foot away from the wall, that looks like a brand-new deck that goes from the house to the wall.
Well, they repaired part of the deck, is what I was told. This was all done before I came back to the building department from
Yes, sir.
another division. And they repaired some deckings and probably some joist. This was all from the builder on site, and they extended the deck that last foot or so.
Okay. All right, that's kind of like what I wanted to hear. I was wondering if that was going to be said. Okay. Thank you.
I do have one question, and it may actually be for the owners or the applicant. Just looking at different pictures, there, at one point, one survey indicates a wood fence, and then in pictures, there's a vinyl fence, and then the reality of what's there now is actually a concrete. Do we know when did all that transpire, or who actually owns which fence, or do we even know that?
I don't know that.
Okay, we'll ask them the applicant. Thank you, sir. Any other questions for?
Nope.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, so moving on down the list, if applicant representatives here, if you come to the podium, state your name, please. And
Good morning. myself and clients thank you for your time and service to the Glynn County residents, for your skills and knowledge for being on this board. I also wanted to thank the Glynn County Community Development staff as well as the County Attorney's Office for taking the time to meet with me and discuss this at an extensive basis. I will go ahead and address some of the questions that you had before I go into kind of the presentation of the application.
Sure.
I know I only get 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to see if it was possible that I could be allotted 15 so that way I can adequately present this to you.
Yeah, I'm okay with, given the depth and breadth of this particular case, we'll be a little lenient on that for sure.
First of all, with regards to the survey, the Jackson survey that we submitted, I could not get Jackson survey to correct the issues that they had created with the survey prior to submitting the application, but I have a corrected copy here for you. So the surveyor went back and looked at his field notes and noticed where he left off a section of the L-shaped deck when he was doing the 2021 survey, excuse me, 2021, the December 2021 survey. He had left off a portion of that deck that were in the field notes. He just inadvertently didn't put it on there. So if I can give this to them, it shows them the actual deck, the L-shaped deck.
Sure. Ms. Leaf can bring that. Thank you.
So the L-shaped deck that we're discussing has been in existence from my conversations with the owners since they purchased the property. It's not a new structure. The only thing that has been added to that L-shaped deck would be a couple inches of decking, so that way there is no gap between the decking and the wall. And to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, with regards to the wall that is currently in existence, that is the neighbors, the Isaacs wall.
Okay.
There was a vinyl fence. I think they misstated on the survey that it was wood, but there was a vinyl fence that went in between the decking and the wall that has since been removed.
Okay.
The reasoning for extending that deck that couple of inches is for safety concerns, which I can get into with the application presentation.
Okay.
But I did want to clarify, the footprint of the decking, other than that couple of inches between the, can you go to that last picture that you just had?
The aerial?
That one, the actual photo, that one. So you see the small board that goes, it kind of goes in between the columns. That's pretty much what is added. Those columns go all the way up to the property line. The wall goes all the way up to the property line. And so what was added was that sliver there to prevent from anyone rolling their ankle or stepping into that gap that was in between the wall and the decking.
Okay. So I do have a question about the deck, but I'll hold it till
Yes, sir.
your presentation is done. And we can-
I did want to let you know that Mr. Selman and Mrs. Selman are on Zoom because they wanted to be here today. They had every intentions of being here today. Mrs. Selman hurt her back Sunday evening, so was unable to travel down, and Mr. Selman is taking care of her this week, and that is part of the condition that she has that we've discussed in the application.
Okay. No, we appreciate them, at least joining by Zoom to be represented.
So I realize that you all are familiar with this property because of the prior variance application, but I did want to remind you, because I feel like it is very important, the history of this, the lot and the home. So this property has been in the current family of my clients since 2006. So it's been in their family for 19 years. Prior to that, it was built in 1913, rolled down the street from the Waycross colonies underneath the lighthouse to its current location on logs. So it's one of the only structures that is left from the Waycross colony because of a fire that consumed the rest of the neighborhood. So it's been in its current location for over 20 years. It's been there since 1920. It is a substandard lot, which is 5,600 square feet, instead of the 6,000 square feet required. So it is grandfathered in with regards to the building being within the setback lines because it has been there pre-existence of the zoning ordinance, which was enacted in 1966. So after it was moved to its current location, it was bought by Lefty Butler, who was a professional baseball player. He had a substantial influence in the community with the baseball program, Little Leagues, and things like that, hence why it's called the Butler Cottage. So this home has a significant history for St. Simon's Island, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration as to why this property is unique compared to the surrounding properties. As I stated, the property was owned by the Elizabeth's parents, and then Elizabeth acquired the property, the entity, from her father in 2021. The improvements to the property needed some improvements as it is 100 years old. So the Selmans, when they acquired the property, took on doing those improvements. And I think the picture that's going to be presented to you today by the opposing parties is that the Selmans have no regard for ordinances or zoning. But that is not the case whatsoever. So they have complied with the building ordinances, and any issues that have come up that the county has asked them to remedy, they have 100% complied with. So the original building permit was applied for in 2022 on behalf of the Selmans. It was approved and issued by the county on September 2022. I want to note that that permit that was issued and approved included the additions that were in the prior variance application. So work began on those items that were inside the setback lines that the county found to be in violation, but the work was done based on a permit that was issued by the county with those things inside the setback line. I think as soon as the county realized that there were additions inside the setback line, they contacted the general contractor, said you need to stop work. You've got, compliance issues with structures being inside the setback lines. Immediately stopped work on those items and applied for the variance. There was also an instance where Tammy called the general contractor and said, hey, you need to do a substantial improvement application. Stopped work, immediately did the substantial improvement application and got that approved. So anytime we've had issues throughout this process that the county has brought to our attention, the Selmans have remedied those issues. They're not trying to squeeze by or get by anyone. I just wanted you to know that that's not the character of how this process has gone. But at issue today is not the additions that have been subsequently torn down. At issue today are two structures that have been in existence for at least 19 years. That is the bunk room, which is on the back of the property, and the L-shaped deck that you see here on the corner of the home. So Mrs. Selman and her two children have a condition that's osteogenesis imperfecta. So it's brittle bone disease is basically what it is. They can do the most simplest things, fall, and will break a bone. So her children, in their short period of time, they're both teenagers, have broken 25 plus bones throughout their lifetime. Ms. Selman herself has broken both ankles at one time, as well as one of her legs, which caused her to be wheelchair bound for an extended period until she was able to recover. The goal of them acquiring Butler Cottage was to eventually move to St. Simon's and have that opportunity of single floor, one level living, because one level living presents less of a risk of falling, going upstairs, downstairs, tripping, things like that, as you could imagine. So the room on the back of the house is a bunk room. The addition on the back of the house is a bunk room. So that provides for 3 bedrooms in the home, one for the parents and then one for each of the children. there's no, because of the history of the home, on top of not wanting to have, they're wanting to have single level living, there's no way to go up with this lot. So there's already a structure in existence. There's nowhere else on the property to put this structure to allow them to have that single level living. The deck, if it were to be of grade, as the code would allow, pavers are uneven. So it doesn't provide that stable, surface for them to be able to walk on without having a tripping hazard or anything of that nature. So I do want to, I'll go through the requirements of the code. I agree with everything in the staff report except for one mention within the staff report. So subsection A of the code requires that the property be extraordinary in exponential condition pertaining to the particular pieces of the property in question because of its size. It's a substandard lot, so we meet that requirement. It is a home on a substandard lot. Subsection B, such conditions are particular to the particular piece of property involved. This property, there are substandard lots surrounding this property, but this property has been subdivided for over 100 years. The home has been on the property for over 100 years. None of the substandard lots surrounding this have that issue. They were homes that were built after the ordinance was put into place, and they were built up to be able to provide for that substandard lot issues. So it's unique because of the history and how long that home has been in its current location. The special conditions or circumstances do not result from the action or actions of the applicant. The Selmans didn't put these items here. These items were here when they acquired the property. And they've been here, from our understanding, for over 19 years. So the bunk room and this L-shaped deck have been in its current location with the current footprint for over 19 years. The last requirement is the one that I agree in part with the county as to what they said in their staff report, but I disagree in one part. So relief granted will not cause substantial detriment to the public good or impair the purpose of the intent of the ordinance. So I agree with the county on that. It does not substantially detriment the public good. The part that in the staff report, it says it impairs the purpose of the ordinance. However, if you look at the ordinance, that's not the case. So the ordinance states, just one second, I've lost my sheet. Here it is. So the purpose of R6, the zoning that this property is zoned under, the purpose in section 701.1 states, regulations which apply within these districts are designed to encourage the formation and continuance of stable, healthy environments for one-family dwellings, and to discourage, so the purpose of these is to discourage any encroachments by commercial, industrial, high-density residential, which means high-rise apartments or public housing, etc., or other uses capable of adversely affecting the single-family residence character of the district. So what we're asking to do here is not going to impair the purpose of the zoning ordinance. The purpose is blatantly put out in here, that it's for the continuance and formation of stable, healthy environments for one-family dwellings. I can answer any questions that you may have with regards to the application or any of the additions. I also have the general contractor here that can also answer any questions that you may have with regards to any work that's been done on the property.
Okay. I'll start. I have several questions, actually. So the property has been in the family since 2006. Current owners got it in 2021, correct?
Yes.
So at that point, they were aware that the lot was the structure was non-conforming. It is a substandard lot, and it was.
I don't think they were aware, based off of, I think a reasonable person would look at the permits from 1999 and think that that addition would be included in,
In my opinion, it should have been disclosed at point of transfer, but that's,
it was more of a, estate planning type transfer. It wasn't, necessarily a purchase like you
No
and I
title search.
would have. Sir?
No title search.
I'm not 100% sure on if there was a title search. I don't think so because it was an entity transfer. So it was not a real estate transfer, it was an asset purchasing agreement, basically.
okay. To the most recent point you'd made, the current owners did not put these items in place. Now, obviously, the kitchen they did.
The kitchen is
so that's-
something that was,
So that's something they did add that, doesn't meet code or whatever, but to the decks and the rear porch, they didn't put it in place, so they didn't create that particular hardship.
No, sir.
However, when it was put in, the current ordinances were in place.
Right.
So it is subject to the current ordinances, which are the ones we discussed earlier, that you can maintain it, you cannot modify it and change it without the variance prior to doing anything.
I do agree with you. But the elements of the variance requirements for this, it doesn't require that prior owners didn't cause the issue. It only requires that the condition and circumstances do not result from the action or actions of the applicant. So that would be my clients, the current owners. So they did not cause the issue, so therefore we meet that requirement.
I agree they didn't cause it, but,
Right.
I have situations where, I'm a builder myself.
Yes, sir.
And the house I mentioned that I picked up and moved, it's the same age as this one. It's a 100-year-old house.
Yes, sir.
So there are other options available to correcting some of these issues is kind of my point with that. But we are also abiding by what the current ordinances are. Question on the second, was the second floor there during the first variance? Because I don't remember seeing it in the initial pictures. Because you mentioned that they couldn't go up, and I was just curious why.
What do you mean?
The current pictures, there's what looks like an addition on the second floor.
There's 3 bedrooms on the bottom floor, so they don't have to go, I think that might be attic. Actually, I think there is 1 bedroom upstairs.
So, but my question is, because in these pictures from the first application,
That's not new. That's been,
it was there before?
yes.
Okay, I didn't see a clear picture, that's what I wanted to verify,
sir.
if it was or was not there initially. Yeah, because I didn't see it in any of the pictures. It's kind of hard to tell from these views as to.
Unfortunately, I wish I had a lot more pictures to present to you. I do have some flood elevation pictures from 2018 that do show the L-shaped deck in its current footprint, as well as the bunk room, in its current footprint.
Gotcha, okay.
This is a single family, there's no second story of this house, is there?
Look in the current pictures,
There is a window at the top. I
don't see a
I've never
current
been up
picture.
there, so I don't know exactly what's up there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, okay.
Yeah, I just don't remember, because we didn't have great pictures of the initial one, I just wasn't sure if it was there initially or not, if that's been added.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, why can't they go
It's
up?
gonna be on the
And
other
I agree
side.
they want to maintain the character of the house, that's kind of my wheelhouse, so I get that, but.
The main thing for them not going up is, 1, the 50% rule, and 2, they want one level living
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
of the condition that Mrs. Selman and the children have. It prevents, they live in a 2-story home now, and they want to get away from that because Mrs. Selman has fallen down the stairs, and that is how she broke her leg and was wheelchair bound for a substantial amount of time to recoup from that injury. So the goal is to
Sure.
get here in the near future to live on one level living
Okay,
in a home that they already own that has that, significant sentimental value to them because it was her father's and it has been in their family for 19 years.
Okay.
They want to continue to have it in their family.
okay. One other thing, and then I'll let my colleagues jump in. In the initial application, I just find it interesting that the front setback encroachment was mentioned in the first one, but there's zero mention of it in this particular one. There's
The
a
front of the
16,
home?
yeah, there's a 16-foot encroachment
Right,
on the front that is not even
encroachment
referenced.
is grandfathered in because the house has been in
Okay.
place for 100 years. I was not involved with the first variance application. I wish I would have. I think this could have been resolved then, and this could have been a lot clearer. I just think we could have had this resolved. But unfortunately, there, was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of back and forth, I think, at that original meeting, which caused additional confusion. So I think that's why some of these things were not addressed originally, just to go ahead and get them out of the way.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, any other
I
questions?
got one, I noticed that the unpermitted lean-to addition on the back, I guess is part of this variance, is .3 feet, which is, I don't know, 3.5 inches from the back property line. Does the overhang extend beyond the property line?
I do not, from the survey that you have, that should include, I would assume that the surveyor would have included the overhang as part of the square of the house. And it
The one you
does,
just gave us,
it's the same roof line that was in place when that survey was done. The roof line has not been changed.
Yeah, I think there was a picture that actually showed that.
And you can tell from, so there are photos that the opponents have produced that show that roof line. You can compare that to photos that I have from a 2018 flood elevation, and you can see that roof line is the exact same. It has not changed.
well, regardless of that, it looks like to me it extends beyond the property line.
I think based off of the surveys, it does not.
The survey only shows the wall.
Even if it stops at the property line, water's gonna shoot off of that onto the neighbor's property.
True.
So that's an issue there.
I would also like to point out that we have tried I've worked very closely with Britt Smith, who is the attorney for the Stoners who owns the property behind them. We have tried to come up with reasonable resolutions so this would not be so contested today. We've offered, because we understand that being an issue, even though that roof line has been there since they purchased the property and prior, we offered to install a gutter system to ensure that water flow would flow back onto our property. So it is a concern that has been brought to us, and we have provided remedy, but they just have not wanted that remedy. They would prefer, I guess, the structure be taken down.
What is that structure? Is that a bedroom?
It is, yes, sir. It's called, they call it the bunk room. It's got some twin beds in there.
Is there a bathroom in there?
No, sir. Also, we've worked with the neighbors, the Isaacs as well. It's my understanding Mr. Selman had a verbal conversation with Mr. Isaac that he approved for him to extend, those couple of inches to the wall and also re-tabby or resurface Matt's side of the wall, which that's what was done. But now it's based off of the opposition letters, he's saying that conversation never happened. I reached out to the Isaacs to try and see if, we could come into an encroachment agreement. If it's, we're not trying to claim any part of his property. We just want that there not to be a gap because it causes that safety issue. So we have tried to work with the surrounding property owners that have had issue with these two structures. The Petties, who are on this side of the property, on the left side of the property, I've spoken to, and they actually submitted an in-favor letter for the variance.
Just my personal feeling on that conversation notwithstanding, the county ordinance is going to supersede any conversation between
I
neighbors.
completely understand that. We were just trying to remedy it before it even came in front of you, just to try and.
Sure, okay. All right, anybody have any other questions for
Yes,
Ms.
I do.
McGraw?
I'll get this on in a second. There we go. You alluded to Section E of the ordinance provisions
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I was looking at the correct site or not. I came across a couple sites last night. I thought, as I was putting in 327 Butler Avenue, and I wanted to see if I could go there March 18th to March 23rd, it sold out. And then I put some other things in the calendar, and it was sold out. Is that presently being used as a rental?
Not at the moment. It's under improvements. So you can't stay in it right now. They were using it as a short-term rental, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is for them to move down here and live in it. But until that time, I think they needed to pay for the expenses of the property as well as their home in Atlanta. So they were short-term renting it, but eventually it will become their permanent residence.
Right, and you keep saying that endless, the end game, eventually. I don't think that has any bearing on what's going on right now, because sometime in my life, maybe 10, 15 years, I want to go to Florida.
Right.
If I'm still living.
Yes, sir.
So, with all due respect, some of the things you keep repeating doesn't hold for me, because they're just empty words. So and they have no bearing on this, and I guess I don't want you to keep steering us away from what we're here to try to do today with those kinds of things. Okay, I'm just letting you know.
I'm just, the applicants had that
I understand that.
condition, so, and that's a part of the hardship, the requirement, so that's why I kept.
Right, and I'll get to the hardship requirement in a second also. But I didn't finish the E thing. So would you consider, I don't know the right term, would you consider when that property is rented out, that's a commercial venture?
No, sir.
Then what kind of venture is it? If you're
Commercial
making money off it, what kind of venture is it?
That, it's still for residential purposes, it's not for commercial. Commercial purposes would be if you're running like a hair salon out of the property, not a place for people to stay and sleep and use as a residential dwelling for a short period of time.
So in your opinion, the second part of that, that ordinance provision E, it doesn't discourage the use of it doesn't, if you extrapolate out, it doesn't discourage the use of a residential property to make money and to come to the board and ask for variances so that you can, in fact, enhance the opportunity to make more money on a residential property while you're eventually planning to come there some years down the road?
These aren't additions. These are pre-existing.
No, you didn't answer what you, no, you didn't answer what I asked. All right, I'll ask it again then.
Yes, sir.
Because my feeling is on E, the second part of it, impair the purpose and intent of the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
I think granting a variance to a property on St. Simon's Island that has absolutely no side setbacks, no rear setbacks, and knowingly has a 16-foot encroachment. So out of the total property there, I think is 5,000, oh, here it is. Out of 5,220 square feet on that property, you're asking for variances on a property for St. Simon's that will have every part of the property built on except 260 square feet. So I just want to let you know that in my estimation, contrary to what your feeling was, I do believe that that does impair the purpose and intent of the ordinance. So I just want to tell you, we have our opinions. I just want to tell you that I'm in disagreement with what you said in that respect.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate your opinion.
And I wanted to point out why.
Yes, sir, I appreciate
Okay.
that.
I already mentioned to you about the eventually moving to one level living. I think that's a personal choice. I found it interesting, and this is not to disparage or be disrespectful to the applicants. They're living in a two-story home now with stairs, and they've chosen not to move from there in spite of their kids breaking 25 bones and all these other things. I'm just saying, reacting to what you had mentioned in terms of bringing forth that. You mentioned about pavers, not wanting to put pavers down. I'm not sure that pavers would be the only option in terms of making a flat surface rather than creating a deck just a comment. And the other part is you've mentioned about 3 times when we look at that deck on the right-hand side, you say a couple of inches. Well, if I look at those 2 boards that go vertical, it seems to me that that deck was filled in probably 11 to 12 inches. That was a foot away from the wall. It's not just a couple inches, it's 2 deck boards, and being a lay guy, I think it's 5.5 inches, so that's 11 inches. So that's close to a foot that it's been added on to bring it to the wall, more so into the setback, and it's not just a couple of inches. And I just want to mention that also, because things are significant to me in terms of wordsmithing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that's what I have for right now. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else have any other comments, questions at this point?
I'm good.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for the general
I was
contractor?
gonna say, if you'd like to, if you have anything you'd like to add, actually, I do have one question for you.
Hi, I'm Sam Shropshire, the general contractor.
Good morning. So,
Morning.
question, and looking in here, the initial permit for what is happening right now, not 1990, current permit was initially issued as a foundation, emergency foundation repair only, correct?
Yes, sir.
At what point, I guess, was it gone back and changed to include the addition of the kitchen and the fireplace and changing the decks and?
So initially, on 6/2, engaged with the client on 8/8, this is of 2022. We started the project as an encapsulation project, site drainage encapsulation, which requires no permit. During this process, during the encapsulation preparation, determined that the tabby wall, the curtain wall, was deteriorated beyond repair, and that the foundation, the brick pier foundations that were original to the home when it was moved back in the 20s, was completely falling apart. So at that point, I stepped back and realized we needed to do a complete foundation overhaul, and submitted to the county a permit request for the foundation overhaul on 9/10, September the 10th, and included at that time the spa construction, the deck renovations in construction, as well as the foundation plans for the required work that I submitted in the plans. And on 9/26, that's when the permit was issued.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Somewhat. So, the part that you didn't mention was that, I see, obviously I can't go inside and see what was done inside, but from the exterior, I see new windows, new doors, new siding. Was there any electrical or any plumbing done whatsoever?
Yes,
Was any of that inspected or included on the permit?
So when we amended the permit to include the substantial improvement
Okay.
package, based on when I was doing the foundation repair and we jacked the home up 6 inches, we cracked some windows, and at that time, the windows all were needed to be replaced anyway, so it kind of, snowballed after that. We started pulling the windows out. None of the clamshell siding was completely rotted beneath. There was no sheathing on the outside of the home, and so it just kind of spiraled, how construction goes. So we were stopped by the county, submitted back in sometime around the end of December, and was requested to submit a substantial improvement package, which we did. So we did completely stop the work. I met with Tammy Armstrong at the county office and asked her if we could at least proceed with the replacement of the windows to at least get the house drive back in.
Sure.
And she did grant that approval, and we proceeded with waterproofing the home And the rest of the work was waited to be approved until the substantial improvement package was approved.
Okay. Is there, with the deck, looking back to this particular one where, it shows the front portion of the deck that appears to be on grade and then the back portion elevated. Is there any reason that it wasn't left that way? I mean, was it just because, had it been left that way and repaired in place, we probably wouldn't be here. With it on grade, as Ms. Leaf, pointed out, the on grade doesn't meet the setback requirements as the elevated does.
The picture, I'm not sure if you can't see, but the deck does run to the back, to the underside of that door, just like it is
In this particular picture, it's about 7 inches down from original. And this is the application that was submitted
Again,
last year.
So I jacked the home up 6 inches.
Okay.
So the deck wasn't attached to the home. There was not a ledger board that ran around the home that attached the deck. It had footers around the home.
So, looking at this picture, the deck is flat from the back wall all the way up to the front where the steps are, correct?
That's correct.
That's not the case in this picture from the original. There is a step down midway down at the back corner of the house. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Is the back corner deck was higher than the front portion of the deck, which goes back to the maintaining versus modifying and changing type thing. That's what I'm getting at with that, so. Anybody else got any questions for Mr. Stropshire?
So basically, the entire deck was rebuilt, I'm assuming?
No.
It was
deck
not?
boards, we remediated a few of the joists.
Yep.
But installed new deck boards. And we did for, I guess there was a section, that corner right there, we sistered other, new joists to the running joists that were coming from the house to the wall, and made the elevations all, made them the same.
Okay.
See, but y'all did raise it up to make it one level?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sympathetic, I'm understanding to I'm a builder as well, and the stuff snowballs, I understand that. I mean, you can't price what you can't see. I do understand that aspect of it. Some of the pictures, just the stuff, I didn't realize there was on these pictures, I don't see the second story addition that was done, but in the previous, in this picture we're looking up here, and the others you've shown don't show any two-story addition, except for the prior.
This picture.
Yeah, the prior.
This is from 2018. You can see that second, what you're seeing in those pictures right here. This is the flood elevation certificate from 2018.
Who put July 23 on this one?
That was printed.
Send Mr. Ivey.
I hadn't seen any current photo showing the two-story addition over the bunk room.
So that one, I think, was submitted by Mr. Isaac.
No, yeah,
Okay.
It originally I assumed was an attic space, and then at some point, was finished out, but it was that second window that you're referring to, I don't know the technical term, has been there.
Okay, I can see it in this picture. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, the only questions I've got.
So there must be stairs inside.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for applicant?
No.
Okay,
Do you mind if I ask the owners if they would like to say anything?
absolutely.
Or have anything to input? Mr. and Mrs. Selman, do y'all have anything you would like to say or add to this?
Yeah, we do. If you wouldn't mind giving us just a minute, we would appreciate that. Liz?
Yes, we would like to say something. we really want to move down there when my son graduates from high school, which is only going to be, he's a junior right now, so it's going to be in another year. My dad transferred the house to us because he wanted to keep it in the family, and he wanted to give it to his children and give us a place to remember him. I told him we would keep it because it was near and dear to his heart. I remember countless visits finding Dad on his porch. He didn't live long after moving out of his beloved house. It was special to him, and therefore is very special to me. I'm sure you're wondering why we decided to improve the deck now, and it was because of the osteogenesis imperfecta. My kids and I both have brittle bone disease. I broke both my legs on staircases, and I have more pins and plates than you can imagine. The first words out of my mouth after the second break was, "I'm so sorry," because I knew how hard it was going to be to learn to walk again, and it was going to take a year. I know how hard it is to be a caretaker because I have been one for 20 years. Calvin, my son, has 15 breaks plus, and my daughter is only 19, and she's had more than 20. We can't live somewhere that isn't safe as we get older, and I believe that the bunk room and the L-shaped deck have been there for years, and I don't understand why we have to take it down. And I'm also heartbroken that these people that Daddy called friends would say these things and be so upset with us. I do think that we have a special situation here, and my dad wanted us to have this house, and I really want to be down there.
And I'd like to add something. This is Matt Selman. Really just two things. You know, we inherited this house. As you know, it had these pre-existing structures. And, you know, we've made a good faith effort with the county and our neighbors. And our attorneys laid out what we've done with the county, and our general contractors laid out what we've done to comply with the county and the ordinances. With our neighbors, I can tell you now, the pictures that the Isaacs submitted, the measurements, they're inaccurate, they're not legitimate, they weren't performed by a surveyor. The board, in my opinion, should completely disregard those pictures. We have the Jackson survey that the county has actually shows the wall that's on the east boundary of the property line is on the property line. And so when there's a wall that's on the property line, in the state of Georgia, it's a co-owned wall. And, you know, we had every right to go to the Isaacs and force them to tear that wall down. No, we didn't want to do that. We're trying to peacefully resolve this. And I have countless times reached out to the Isaacs and asked to have lunch, breakfast. I have text records of saying, you know, would you please call me back? Let's try to remedy this situation with no response. And the same with the stoners behind us. We've made a concerted effort over the course of the last 2 years working on this house to try to remedy it with the neighbors. And, you know, my real question is, why now? Why raise these concerns now? The L-shaped deck and the bunk room have been there, we believe, for 20 plus years. And we believe that you can interpret that 1999 permit that Dr. Holloway was issued and approved by the county, that it included that bunk room. And so, you know, the Isaacs moved in 2016. And we know when my father-in-law lived in the house, they came over and they had cocktails on that L-shaped deck with them. They didn't complain then. So why are they complaining now? They didn't complain when my father-in-law served as their reference to get into the Sea Island Club and introduce them to their social circles. So what is it? What really is the issue? Why is it that they're raising these concerns about these structures now 8 years later? And I'll tell you what it is. Here's what I think it is. They got irritated when we wanted to build an outdoor fireplace that was wood burning because they were worried about the pollution. And they made it a point to talk about the pollution in text strings And we know that they're the ones that also raised the concern when Mellow Mushroom wanted to have a wood-burning fire because of the pollution. The truth is, they have a reputation of being agitators and complainers. It wouldn't matter what you did, they're gonna complain about it. And we've gone to great lengths to try to remedy it, and they aren't even willing to talk anymore. I mean, and the same is true for the stoners behind us. They have been unwilling to try to work this out. So here's the bottom line. You know, we could have let this house fall apart, drag down the property values in the community. It would have hurt the neighbors' values. And they would have had no opportunity to complain or oppose any of this work. But what we did was we chose to invest in this house that is so special to us. We filed for building permits. We asked for variances. We've done everything in the light according to the county. And we've improved the home. We've improved the community. We've improved our neighbors' values. And the thanks that we get from our two next door neighbors is they call the county and complain. They try to rally opposing support against us, and they draw up plans on how to harm us. I mean, talk about what country are we living in? Talk about a bad precedent to set. Surely this board is fair-minded and can see through this nonsense. I hope that the board will strongly consider the uniqueness of this situation with our family, the challenges with this historic home that had pre-existing structures on it, and and have justifiable reasons to grant an exception and improve this variance.
Okay, thank you. Any,
Thank you.
anybody have any comments for the owners? Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you, sir, for all sharing. I have one question. It's kind of, why did you ask permission to install gutters on your property? Why did you go to that when it was mentioned by your attorney that in terms of mitigating the water situation, you folks went and asked them or proposed putting up gutters and they didn't want to hear anything about it? Why didn't you just go forward and, because this is one of the things that I said just in a passing comment after the first look at your property is like, okay, if the complaint was water going over the wall, why didn't they just put gutters on there and that mitigates the situation and gets rid of that one voice out there saying water keeps coming on our property, water no longer would come there? Why did you even ask permission? I'm just trying to understand the dynamics.
That was me.
I know you had mentioned that.
Right, but
I'm assuming that he knew that you did that.
Yes, that was me communicating with the other attorney, trying to come up with remedies so that way we can amicably come to a resolution after the original variance was denied and then they brought these issues to the county. We were just trying to come up with ways.
Oh, I understand that. It's just a simple question.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you just put gutters up?
Because the gutter would extend over the property line.
Right.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I think you're asking about the gutters off the back of the bunk room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bunk room, in fact, the bunk room never had gutters on it in the past. So the stoners who are the property owners that are on the north that you're referring to bought their house knowing that there's never been any gutters there. And in fact, my understanding is that that's never caused any issue on their side of their property. Now, there was some conversation about possibly putting gutters on there, and we said, hey, we think that that'd be a way to remedy, this if you're concerned about it. They wouldn't respond to us.
Oh, I understand that. No, believe me, I'm hearing what your attorney, what you just said. My question's very simple.
You reach out to your neighbors and you both sides and you say, hey, we'd like to remedy these situations, and they don't reply.
I understand that. I don't think you're listening to the question. I'm asking, why didn't you just put gutters up? Why did you even ask them? Why is that part of a negotiation? You own the property, and you say, without even asking them, all I'm saying is, after the last one, I went away saying, why, I know it's a small piece, but in terms of just, you're talking about the issues with your neighbors. Why didn't you just do it?
I think because
They're not gonna say, we don't want you to put gutters up on your house. They have no right to
Well,
say
it
that.
does extend that roof line, you know, so.
I thought the roof line was already there, over.
It's
Okay, that's fine, let it go, that's fine. I was listening to the owner here, gentleman, and with all this, the negative dynamics with neighbors, and I'm saying, that's something I thought of the last time, was like, why didn't you just do that? That was a good show of faith. We don't want water coming on your property anymore. We'll do the gutters. That's fine.
Yes,
No, it's only a little bit in the whole dynamic of it. Okay.
Okay? Any other questions for owners or for applicants?
Stephanie, do I have permission to throw this microphone in the trash can? Because it don't work. So is the fence, the back of the property, the fence, whose property is that fence on? The brick fence,
The Selmans,
the Stoners?
the Selmans property. The concrete wall.
The
is on
concrete
Selmans-
wall.
Is on the Selmans property. They have a white fence that's directly behind that they connect, they touch, that is on the Stoners property.
So this picture that I'm looking at here, and I don't know if y'all have a copy of this or not.
I do.
It appears to us that the brick fence,
That photo was done by not a surveyor, so it's not an accurate depiction of where the property line lays.
all right, I get that. So the wood fence behind it,
Yes, sir.
that belongs to the Stoners.
Yes, sir.
This brick fence belongs to
Mr. Selman.
y'all.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, if I'm looking at this photograph correctly, it looks like this bunk room is extending over that brick fence. Am I correct?
It's not it sits kind of on top of it.
Yeah, correct. But if the Stoners own this brick fence, then this bunk room is extending over onto their property.
No, the Selmans own the brick fence. The
The
property, my
Selman-
clients, yes.
Okay.
My clients own that. There's a white fence that abuts to the back
I
of
see
the-
that. Okay.
That is owned by the Stoners.
All right, I got you. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
Okay. All right, any other questions for applicant or owner?
No.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
I appreciate y'all's time and consideration and input. Thank you.
All right. All right, moving on to the public comment section. Is anyone here to speak in favor of this applicant? Okay, hearing none, moving on to anyone here to speak against this applicant. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record, please.
My name is Clark Isaac. My wife and I, Linda, live at 331 Butler Avenue. That's next door to the property, to the applicant. We've lived there for 7 years, and I've been to a lot of meetings, and I've never heard a person's character treated the way the applicant talked about me. I'm offended. I've been a professional engineer for 46 years in my home state of North Carolina. When I obtained my engineering license, I met all the professional requirements and educational requirements to be a licensed surveyor in North Carolina. I elected not to do that because I was practicing as a structural engineer. For over 30 years, I owned and operated a successful design-build commercial construction company. In addition, I served on the Board of Appeals in my local community for 3 terms. It was my responsibility to know and to comply with zoning ordinances and building codes. It is my responsibility, and the reason I speak up is to, and it's responsibility of every professional engineer, is to protect the public welfare and safety. We thought the variance application, when it was denied last July, that the various code violations and encroachments would be resolved by code enforcement. That did not happen, and work continued on all four sides of this property in the setbacks. I have pictures and documentation of all this. And what I'm saying, I have an obligation to be truthful to you. It really upsets me when I hear things spoken up here that are not true. And I know that because I've witnessed it, and I have another witness sitting in the audience that has seen this also. It's been going on for 18 months. We are surprised and concerned that the applicant can apply for another variance for the same thing that was previously denied. He applied for a variance to allow the fireplace, and he knew that the decks were on my property. I sent him pictures, and I informed him in writing. So I've got quite a few comments to make about their application, but I noticed that the attorney for the applicant gave some additional information that was not in the packet, which was the revised survey. Is it appropriate for me to add something to the record now?
Yeah, if you can hand it to Ms. Leapanger behind you, please.
Okay, so I made copies for everyone to look at, and I'll give it to you. But I'm not ready to talk about that right now. It's part of when I get along in this way. So to answer a few questions or things that I heard people say before I get into the critique of the application, the original permit for the house was for emergency repairs. I took a picture of the building permit. I have it in a file at home. I did not bring it. The updated permit was issued sometime in June before the variance hearing last year, and it had the list of repairs that were going to be completed by the contractor. That I did not see any plans that were associated with the list of repairs. The house is listed as a one-story house, but there is an upstairs bedroom with a bathroom. I've been through this house many times with my next-door neighbor. I helped him make little repairs around the house because he didn't have much building skills. So I'm very intimate and familiar with what was there before the remodeling started. So the application stated that the Butler Cottage lot is unique. And I did an analysis of the lots in King City. A high percentage, if not a majority of the lots, are what is called substandard. The lot is the same size as my lot. As far as the historical significance of Butler Cottage, really the only thing that's historic about Butler Cottage is the age of the house. It is an old house. Butler Cottage does not qualify for the National Register of Historic Places for a multitude of reasons. The most significant is that it does not retain historic integrity, and that is due to the many modifications and changes that have taken place over the years. I spent many hours of research with respect to the 30-plus pages of information submitted by the applicant. It is my professional opinion that the information submitted is intended to create the idea that the lean-to addition was somehow legally permitted, built, and inspected and approved. It is my professional opinion that the permits granted by Glynn County in 1999 was a legally permitted 300 square foot addition, and it stated on the recently printed information in those 30 pages that the addition was for 300 square feet, and that's what I would like for them to pass out. I downloaded this plan of the house from the active listing on the short-term rental website, St. Simons Island Beach Rentals, and it shows the footprint, and if you look on that sketch, it will show what that 1999 permit addition was listed. If you add the square footage of the family room and the storage room, it's almost exactly 300 square feet. It's not in the setback, and it is backed up by a copy. When Mr. Holloway got a permit to build this addition, he got an appraisal. And on page 30 of 68, on the documents submitted, you can see that the 1,562 square foot existing two-bedroom house with a porch on the back, there's a block that's filled in, and that's that 1999 addition. And at the same time, I think Dr. Holloway incorporated the porch into the kitchen. And I think it is my personal, professional opinion that the bunk room was added by somebody else at a later date. I think there's people who know who built that addition. Also, the Jackson survey submitted to the Board of Appeals in support of the variance is not accurate as an as-built as required, and she corrected that, but it does not show, or I haven't seen the updated survey, but portions of the house were removed, and the one that was submitted in the packet that I had did not show the deck that was added legally on the west side of the house or the hot tub that was added on the left-hand side of the house. There was plenty of room to expand that house on the west side to have a livable space on the same level if that was a big concern. They instead elected to put in a big hot tub. From the past actions of the applicant, I don't think that we can trust him to give him a variance. What would keep him from continuing to build in the setbacks if he gets a variance? Nothing. In the 2+ years Mr. Selman has owned this property, all we have seen is short-term rentals and construction. It has not been a pleasant experience. We have never seen or met his immediate family that he says is going to move here permanently. Once these issues are settled, the short-term rentals will return to this newly renovated entertainment center. Despite Mr. Selman's statement that he plans to move here permanently, Butler Cottage still has a listing on the St. Simons Beach Rentals website. So why am I going to this much trouble to get this variance denied? The answer is simple. I want to protect our neighborhood and our quality of life. We want to spend the last years of our life on Butler Avenue. As the attorney for the applicant stated, the R6 district is to encourage the formation and continuance of a stable, healthy environment for one-family dwellings. There are 9 short-term rentals within 200 feet of our house. There is 1 full-time resident within 200 feet of our house. King City is under assault from short-term rentals and the negative impacts. We have no homeowners association to protect us. Butler Cottage rental website lists the property as sleeping 10 people. There is inadequate off-street parking for this many people. There is inadequate off-street parking for short-term rentals in King City. This is creating a hardship for the permanent residences and visitors alike. Is this what we want for the most historic and the first subdivision on St. Simons? What are we asking for the board to do? We want the board to deny the request for the variance. We want the Butler Cottage brought into compliance with the current zoning. We want the removal of unpermitted additions and decks especially the decks built on our property within the setbacks. This would reduce the people allowed to rent, reduce the pressure on the parking, and would limit the social activity, which is noise and lights, in the small setback areas next to our main living room. We feel that we are entitled to the quiet enjoyment of our property that is free from a private nuisance. We trust that after making your determination of the facts in this case, the board will deny this variance. We thank you for your service to our community.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Anyone else like to get up and speak against this particular? Okay.
If I could just comment, I'd like to set the record straight. I mean, the deception continues from Mr. Isaac. This property is not listed to be rented currently. It's been under construction for 2 years. Who in their right mind would have a property listed to be rented when it's under construction? It's not listed. We don't even have.
Mr. Selman,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Selman, excuse me. We're still, excuse me, sir. We're still in the public hearing portion, so the board still has this part open to the public hearing.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments, but honestly, we're not here to debate the vacation rental. We're here to look specifically at the issues and variance in ordinances. So, is there anyone else here in the public comment section who wants to comment for or against? Okay, hearing none, closing that section. Discussion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, the ordinance does allow the applicant to rebut any,
Okay.
if you allow it.
Yes.
With regards to the permit that was mentioned, there are all kinds of different square footages. None of them align with each other that are mentioned inside that permit. Additionally, I ordered a copy of this magazine, which has an article on this home. And it's from 2001, and it says that it boasts 9 rooms, including a master bedroom, a kitchen, 2 guest bedrooms. So that is the 3 bedrooms that are on the bottom floor of that home. So I did want to say that there's ambiguity with that permit as to whether or not it includes the bunk room. I can't tell you 100% whether it includes it, and neither can the county. So I think that creates some issue with regards to the bunk room. I just want to quickly clarify or correct a few statements that were inaccurately made. So the home actually is eligible to be listed on the National Registry for Historic Places. It says that in the staff report as well. There is a survey that was taken in 2009, and this home is included in that survey for eligibility to be listed on the National Registry. Also, I just wanted to remind you of the support letters that we do have that are included in your packet. One of those, it actually represents 2 separate properties. So the one that is from an estate, there are 2 properties, one owned by the representative individually, and then she also owns a property as the estate. So there's one more technically. And then, again, I just want to thank you for your time and can answer any further questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it for the rebuttal from that side. At this point, I'll close the public comment section. Discussion from the board?
Yeah, I have a question, either for you to answer it, or I was going to ask Ms. Stephanie to distill this whole thing down for me. Stephanie, what is the variance that's being requested?
The variance
actually?
Right, exactly. The variance that's being requested is for the deck that is on the right-hand side of the house, so what is shown in these photos on the screen right now.
Could you speak closer to the mic to help me out, please?
Sure. Can you hear this,
yes,
this better? You. Okay. So the variance that's being requested today is this this deck that's on the right-hand side, the L-shaped deck that's been referred to throughout the meeting, because it does go to the property lines. It's a 0 setback instead of 7 feet, and 7 feet would be the requirement. So that is the request. And the bunk room, this rear addition, is part of this variance request as well. As we've talked about before, it's, staff was unable to verify whether there was a permit granted for that or not. So because it's unclear in terms of our records, that is part of the request to be able to officially allow that, because it was built in the 1990s. So if it was not something that was permitted to be to the property line, it's not old enough to fall under the legal nonconforming statute. So those are the two pieces that are part of this request today. As been noted, because of the age of the house does not meet front yard setbacks, but it's a legal nonconforming allowance. The house itself is legal nonconforming in terms of that front setback, because it was built in the built prior to the 1960s.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry. So, making sure I understand this correctly, so the first part of the variance you spoke to, they're asking for a variance for a deck that's already been built?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And
It's the deck, it's the kitchen that we're looking at right there, and the bunk room.
just to recap too, no increased footage has been added to the property since the current owners have it, except this 2 to 10 inch or 2 to 12 inches of deck. Would that be safe to say?
That is my understanding based on what's been shared today,
Okay,
that
really the main thing
this
in
has been
question, I mean, as far as
existence.
it's been added, would be the 2 deck boards. 1 to 2 deck boards is doing your picture frame on the deck. Everything else was within the footprint upon the Shellman's, their acquisition of it.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, any other discussion from board, or, I do want to make a comment. I mean, the comment came up about the intent of the ordinance and affecting other people. Granting a 0 lot line in this neighborhood is kind of a big issue to me because of, I was born and raised here, I grew up here, these are small lots. Obviously we have an issue, the outdoor kitchen is absolutely not in compliance. It would have to be movable. I get, and I am sympathetic with the owner's situation and wanting to be in a single level home, but I guess the way that some of this was approached and the fact that there are some blatant issues with the outdoor kitchen, I have issue with my vote on this one. That's just my opinion on it. With granting this one, there's granting a 0 lot line in this neighborhood, and the blatant issues of the outdoor kitchen. I have a problem with that.
Well, I have a problem with the overhang. I'm concerned that it extends beyond the property line, because the survey only shows the wall.
So, okay, that was my comment.
And that's actually beyond the property line, let alone the setback.
All right, any other discussion from the board?
Yeah, one comment based on what you were saying about the 0 lot line. I'd written down here, if a variance is approved, what would stop in the future from increasing the square footage of livable house and moving it out to the property line? Getting rid of the deck? I mean, if we give it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's most likely what, in my personal opinion, just from being around here so long, what happened with the lean-to in the back is that it was started out as a partial cover that, got closed in and incorporated in the house at some point in history. We're not here to debate that. I frequently see how that happens, so I totally see your point on that.
Right. Because the point is, it keeps talking about the wraparound L-shaped deck, and I'm thinking, sitting here saying, okay, what about the wraparound L-shaped that becomes the house, and now it goes all the way up to the property line? And then the other comment I just want to reiterate again is part of my concern is that setting, I know they're individual looks, but just the same, a precedent of going to a 0 lot line in St. Simon when property is just so tight.
I agreed, it could be,
that-
yeah, we don't want to set a precedent
That
of
really bothers
Pandora's
me
box.
in
to-
terms of where the ordinances are. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And wasn't it too long ago that we made somebody remove the deck across the street?
You know, it was last year or year before, I believe.
Yeah, that was the one where they could have put pavers down and they elected to go up instead of,
All right.
um,
Anything else from staff, Mr. Carter?
No, nothing for staff. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to add, September of '22 is when they applied for the foundation repair. And then in June of '23, which is, you know, a year and a half later, one of our inspectors, this, of course, before I came back to the building department, one of our inspectors went out there for the fireplace that was being built at the property line. And at that time, he stopped that work. He did not stop. That's when he noticed inside, Mr. Farnsworth here, he noticed inside interior work being done without a permit. So at that time, I guess the owner or the builder came in and talked to Ellis, my predecessor, and had everything arranged, but there was something wrong with the substantial improvement package that needed some work to be done on it. But he allowed him to continue with the interior at that point. So I just want to give you that. The addition that Mr. Isaac gave, this rear area that we're talking about that's in the setbacks to the property line, for the property appraisal's office, in the past, they showed that as a lean-to. So keep that in mind. The addition, staff told me while I was sitting here, and I walked out, that we do have inspections on, for 1999 for that permit. We do not have a site plan, we do not have any plans. But we do have inspections that have passed, which our staff back then should have noticed if that addition was in the setbacks at that point. The planner noted on the paperwork that it was not. But whoever the planner was did not do a site visit during the construction process. So as apparently it was whatever submitted on paper that it met.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
thank you.
Mr. Carver, so the permit was for a lean-to, it wasn't for habitable quarters?
No, the permit in 1999 was for a bedroom,
Okay.
okay?
But it was within the setback.
We would think so, but we do not know because we do not have a
Yeah,
set,
yeah, I
we
think
do not have, we do not have a
this
site plan.
section here,
Right.
and then that was
They didn't keep plans, we didn't really start keeping plans till about 2010 or 12.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but just please keep it brief because we are. Yeah.
Britt did send me a tax card, Britt Smith, the attorney for the Stoners, a tax card that showed that it is labeled as open frame porch, but that was the same year that I have photos that clearly dictate that it was not an open frame porch. So there can be some inaccuracies with the tax card with regards to its description, because that was one of them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Well,
Are we done with the discussion? At this point, I'd like to move forward and, anybody like to make a motion?
I'm very sympathetic to the health issue that these owners have. However, I'm also very sympathetic to what is happening with the neighbors. I mean, the neighbors' opinions weigh a lot in these decisions, and so I'm going to make a motion that, and I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to make this motion up. And I don't, let's see here. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the deck only, ZV 24-3, for the deck only. However, it has conditions that the kitchen equipment be removed. And, as bad as I hate to say that building department dropped the ball or community development dropped the ball on this other addition. And, I know that doesn't happen these days. I know all three of us as builders know that doesn't happen these days. So, but I don't have a motion for that.
Okay, have a motion on the floor.
You don't have a motion for what?
I do not have a motion for approval or denial of the addition
The lean-to?
of the lean-to.
Current motion is you have a motion to approve the deck with the condition that all of the exterior kitchen equipment be removed.
Correct.
Okay, current motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
It doesn't include the lean-to, which is part of our,
Correct.
Yeah, I'll refer to our attorney. Is that a legitimate?
Yes, sir. You can make motions to approve with conditions. You can approve part of the application and not part of the other. So the motion on the floor is definitely a valid motion. That's within your authority to approve or deny.
Okay.
So again, Stephanie too, the addition that the ball was dropped on, I'm sympathetic to the owners in the aspect of they acquired the property and that's the way it was. It's not like the only footprint increase was the 2 deck boards, and that makes sense to me. I mean, that is a trip hazard. But the overhang, I would like to see something done with that overhang crossing the fence, but I don't know how we would address that as a condition of the variance.
we have to postpone to gather more information.
Yes, sir. So, and I think that motion got a second, if I'm not mistaken. Is
Correct,
that
yes.
correct?
For the
All
deck.
right.
For the deck only.
Yeah, the motion on the floor is to approve the deck only, with the condition that the kitchen equipment be removed. So that lean-to or addition would have to be removed if that stands. So you can either vote that motion down and make a new motion, or if you want to amend that motion, someone has to make a motion to amend. You have to vote on whether to amend the motion, and then that motion will be amended. So, you know, I would think before you move forward, have a good idea in your mind of how you want to either change that existing motion, or if you just want to start from scratch, then you can vote down that motion that's on the floor.
In terms of removing the kitchen, what's your thinking in terms of that could easily be replaced by something that's not permanent, so therefore?
That is correct.
That is correct.
Yes, anything that is movable,
Right, so
is
I'm
not
asking.
not permanently attached to the decking, can be added back.
Right, so I'm just asking if, in terms of what your thinking was, saying, okay, the deck is okay, so if the deck's okay and we know that that can be replaced by grills on wheels and nothing would change, why would you want that taken out?
We can't control that.
We can't control that, yeah.
We can't control that. If somebody wants to put a grill out there, they can put the grill, but you can't have something permanent.
I understand that. Oh, I understand that. I'm just asking, the deck can't be permanent either.
I'm trying to appease
I understand
numerous
that.
people.
Okay,
he's-
I mean, I was just, okay,
He's
fine.
sympathetic to the health condition.
Oh, I am too.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
Oh, I am too. I guess I'm not communicating it well enough. Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to it also. I'm just asking, why go through, if we're gonna give them the deck, why take the kitchen out? Because they take the kitchen out on Friday, tomorrow, and next Monday, they can have the whole setup now, but on wheels, or something that's I'm just saying, it's just a semantic kind of thing. But here's my question, going back to what I said to you about this. Conditionally then, what happens once you give that 0 lot variance? What happens in the future if they want to enlarge the house?
Right.
I think we're opening ourselves up to that by not adding a condition to it.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would give them a variance to pull that house to the property line. I I mean, I
But
don't.
the point being is there wasn't a variance for the lean-to, quote, lean-to that is there now.
That had a permit and it snuck by some cracks and it was, it's.
My personal opinion is I don't think the lean-to was ever permitted. What the permitted section was what you see in the left of the picture.
But we have nothing to.
I agree, that's
mean,
just, that's my opinion,
so kind
that's
of-
all that
and
is.
We can't, I don't think we can go back and rebut something that we have nothing to back up.
Okay, Rich, maybe I don't understand the setback correctly. What I was saying is that by giving them the deck, we're eliminating the 7-foot setback.
For a deck structure, not a.
Just for a deck structure.
For the deck structure only.
They can't increase the footprint of the house.
That's what I'm saying.
yep.
We're not saying that, and we.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. So if we say that conditionally.
We're approving the deck.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that, because the variance is specific to the deck and this addition, if the board were to grant the variance for this, that does not give a blanket variance for the rest of the property.
Correct.
So if they were to, in the future, want to add on to the house, they would need to come back before this board to request a variance again. So the variance would only be to what
That's
you're
my
seeing in the
concern right from the
application
get-go in
today.
terms of protecting property all over our island.
Right, yes, sir.
All right, so we currently had the motion on the floor currently is for the deck only with the condition that the kitchen be removed, and we have a second on that. We're still not addressing the lean-to. Do you want to amend your, well, I guess at this point, we already have seconds, we have to vote on that, and then,
Well, he said.
or can we amend it since we already have a second?
Yeah, you can amend the motion on the floor. The procedure for that would be for someone to make a motion to amend the motion and then state what you want your amendment to be. You would then have to vote on that, whether to allow that amendment. If that passes, then the motion would be amended. You'd be voting on the new amended motion. An alternative is if you want to withdraw the motion and that motion gets a second and you vote on that, then you kind of start back at square one if you want to.
Let's withdraw and start over.
Okay.
All right, so that being said, I will withdraw my motion
Okay.
on the floor.
So I will withdraw. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All right, so all in favor of withdrawing motion on the floor? All right, so we're back to 0 now.
I'll make a motion to approve ZV 24-3. The deck would be approved as is, no improvements. The outdoor equipment must be removed. The back porch addition with the roof line encroaching the neighbors, going over the fence into the neighbor's property line, that be addressed and removed at some way, and a gutter system to capture the water and get it back on the applicant's property.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
I just don't like approving that addition, the lean-to.
And my only contention of approving this because they didn't do it. They inherited the property. That's their only saving grace on, if they'd added that, I mean, we wouldn't be here for 15 minutes today. I mean, that's my, so if we have no second, then it's up to somebody else to make
That in the case with no second, that motion just fails.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. If there's no second, then the motion fails.
All right.
keep going on.
So the components are the deck, the kitchen,
Outdoor kitchen.
the outdoor kitchen, the water going into the neighbor's yard, and then the structure itself. So there's 4, right? That's what you were talking about, 4 components.
Well, it's 3. It's the lean-to, the deck, and the outdoor kitchen.
Okay, because with the lean-to, that's causing the water to go over, so it's not something that's separate.
Right.
Okay,
And
so there's 3 components that we're looking at.
Right.
Okay, kind of deconstruct it that way and look at it again. What are
I
some,
like that original motion.
The original one didn't address the lean-to.
Well, he said if it didn't address the lean-to, lean-to wasn't included.
So the original motion was to allow the deck with the kitchen equipment removed, no condition on the lean-to, so therefore the lean-to would have to, or lean-to, whatever, would have to go away, is that correct?
That's correct. I believe the original motion was to approve the deck only with the
Okay.
condition that the permanent outdoor kitchen components be removed.
And then, since the lean-to is not part of that condition, then it effectively is not approved, so the lean-to element has to be removed.
Correct. That addition would not be included in the variance that's
Okay.
approved.
Okay,
My
all right.
apologies.
So that makes a difference to me, but go ahead.
Just help me out as the layperson. So what are some options for that lean-to situation?
Well, that's not even part of that's not,
Taking it back over put it on their property line?
well, that's not part of the variant.
Yeah, that picture.
Yeah,
there.
it's part of this one.
So like what would happen?
If it is not part of, like, Mr. Wildsmith's original, you know,
Right.
this would have to go away,
Yeah.
and the deck would remain.
Yeah.
And since that is not included, it would have to be removed to become in the compliance.
Back to the,
Back to
this line right here.
Back to this point.
That's what I just said.
Correct.
That's what I just said. Oh, okay.
Or take before the BOC.
Correct, which is obviously not.
That being said, I'm going to make a motion that I just did to approve ZV 24-3 for the deck only, with a condition that we remove or have the kitchen equipment removed. And I'm going to make another motion to deny the lean-to part of this issue.
Okay, have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a second for that. And so the motion is to approve the deck as existing, remove all the kitchen equipment, and the condition that the lean-to portion of this element be denied. All right, and motion second. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? All right. So motion passes as presented. You have the approval for the deck as is. All the kitchen equipment has to be removed to become in compliance, be it movable or whatever the case. And then the lean-to portion was denied. Since that portion was denied, you do, correct, they do have the option to appeal that portion before Glynn County Board of Commission to appeal this decision. Okay. Leaving anything else for us other than getting into other business?
That's right, yep, there are elections is our next
Correct.
item, last item on the agenda.
Thank y'all, everyone. All right, so moving on to 3.1, election of officers. That time of year.
I'll make a motion that we keep it as is. Mr. Chairman is Mr. Woodman, and Mr. Minatelli is the vice chair.
Okay. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Done. Everybody remains as done. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was a challenging one, but we got through it. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.